A very good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Well, I was reading through a few acronyms over the internet, and I found out a beautiful acronym which is TOTTI, Tamil Nadu Advanced Training Technical Institute. In the same way, I thought I found out something for aircraft maintenance engineers as well. There's an acronym LAME, Licensed Aircraft Maintenance Engineers. So, is that a point of joke among some people that you guys call lame in some ways, or is this term
No,
really?
that's a very, very true term. Like this is the thing that we call even on LinkedIn profiles. If you see, if you put the lame, you'll be on the first to appear. So this is the very technical term that everyone uses.
Okay. So you're somebody who practices in Croatia, I heard. Is that true?
Yes,
So how long have you been working there?
I have been there for a little more than 5 years now.
5
A
years.
little more than 5 years.
Mhm. So where did you study this particular brand of engineering?
Oh, that's a very interesting story.
Mm-hmm.
I started this back in Nepal with this institute.
Aviatrace?
Aviatrace, yes.
Uh-huh.
And then on the way and on the journey, we ended up in Croatia, and now we are employed there, working peacefully, happily. Everything is perfect.
Mm-hmm. So were you amongst the first batch of students?
That's very true. Yes, we were.
So how come that I don't know you? Because I must have been an instructor here sometime. I don't know. Dios should check it, but I thought and so I was wondering if I knew you from the beginning or.
Sorry, I interrupted you, but you were instructor from the very first.
Was I an instructor to your son? No. So yeah, that explains a lot. So who was the one who taught you maths and physics?
Divas.
Dios was the one who taught maths and physics. And I hear and there's a lot of word in the church that he's such a wonderful guy to talk about everything related to education. He teaches a lot about Jesus Christ and all. And I think physics is also something that he does particularly well.
He's an amazing guy. Amazing guy he is.
Mm-hmm.
As a person and as an instructor.
Mm-hmm. So whom would you kiss more, the instructor or the person?
Oh, person, no homo. Of course,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Okay. So, did you complete all of your studies here and then went to Croatian Airlines, or did you go midway between?
I started here, and then on the way we figured out something which was coming out from the Croatia Airlines. There was a program which was designed, and we wanted to join. So it was not like very serious that we were trying to jump in, but we applied, and luckily or fortunately it happened. So we decided to go there and finish whatever is left.
Okay, so how easy is transferring between EASA, that's the EASA course that is held in our country, and then transferring it to a different location?
There's no transfer, as you already said. It's EASA. I mean, it's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no such thing as transfer.
Oh.
If you have an EASA certificate, EASA approved certificate, it's the same thing.
Okay, so how many modules did you study in this particular institute?
3 modules I did.
Only 3 modules.
Yes, and I did not complete all of them. I was on the way, but then we found something, Croatia Airlines, and then we said, let's try. And it happened, so we said, let's go.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So how different do you think the teaching here was in comparison to what you learned in Croatia?
There is very, very slim difference. It's not much difference, but the difference is when you are in Croatia Airlines, it's a maintenance 147 and 145 organization. So the people there, the community there, it's a little different on that one. On teaching in the classroom, it's the same thing. You learn the same book, same lessons, taught by professionals, of course, here and there. But outside the room, in that environment, there is a difference.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you've not really worked in the Nepalese Airlines, have you?
I have not.
So have you ever had maybe as somebody who maybe worked as an intern somewhere for a particular project?
I have a friend. He's in Mercury now. I think he's an intern now. I'm not sure though. But not much people I know. Not much people I know.
Because I was wondering if there is a personal note of difference that you say, if you could draw a point of difference between working there and working here from experience, for example, and even if it's not first hand. So if there's a friend of yours who works as an aircraft maintenance engineer here and there, and do you have a chat about how things go?
I think I can give you a better explanation on this one because I have been to our hangars of Nepal Airlines and inside the facility a couple of times. So I have seen the difference. Like I can see what's different and what's going wrong or what's going good on this side and that side. So there is a lot of difference actually. There is a lot. Here, I mean, I'm not going to complain about it or like say bad about anyone, but what it is. So it's a little messier. And people, the engineers here or whoever is working on planes or like B1s, they have a bit much attitude on them, which is, I don't know where it comes from and for what, but I don't like that one.
Yeah, I mean, a relative of mine was once posted in South Africa. He worked as a peacekeeping force. And he always told me that the pilots in South Africa had a very mild attitude in that you could approach them. If there was something dirty in the aircraft, they were the ones who took the towel and cleaned all of it. But in India, for example, where he also worked, he said that pilots have this sort of a sense of entitlement, and they think that these are things that you're not supposed to do, and these are for low-level workers, in that the maintenance or even the simplest bit as cleaning the glasses is not. It is somehow beneath them.
Yeah.
Is it something that's particular to the South Asian culture, maybe?
I don't know, but a little bit of this is seen everywhere. Even in Croatia Airlines. Croatia Airlines operates two types of fleet, 320 and -Q400. And on Q400, we have to pump pressure to the hydraulic system. Sometimes it falls down. There is a small handle in the cockpit. We just have to take it out and give it a few pump. But that's something a captain can do, a pilot can do, anyone can do.
Anybody could chip in.
But since the handle is a little like greasy or a little black, they don't want to touch it. They got the call to the MCC, and then we have to go take the handle out, give it a few pump, give it back. So it's bit of it is everywhere.
Bit of it is everywhere.
Yeah, but in some places it's like it's so visible that it's so big.
So in Nepal, is it much pronouncedly more in comparison to Croatia?
I think yes.
Well, you're an aircraft maintenance engineer, and this is a field that's not particularly touched upon, especially in our country. I mean, before joining Aviatrace, I didn't even know that aircraft is maintained before and after it has landed. And I think that this will come as a surprise to most people, because most people don't really know that it's got to be maintained so heavily. So how many, say, for a layperson like me, how many minutes or how many hours does an aircraft need to be inspected before it is considered good enough to fly?
It really depends. It depends on the regulation of that company or the organization they're working on. But I'll talk about the Airbus regulations. On Airbus, they have daily check. They have weekly checks. And they have A checks, B checks, C checks. And these checks are on some time interval, except that the other maintenance that we do is only when we have a problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how much, how many problems would take place? For example, I was talking to another aircraft maintenance engineer in Nepal, and he works in Himalayan Airlines. He said that bird strike is something that happens, say, once every week or so. Is it something that regular in Croatia as well? Or?
No, not weekly basis. Bird strike, we have bird strike sometimes. Sometimes it causes damage to the airplane, but sometimes there is a body strike and there is a bit of blood which we need to clean. And when we inspect it, we couldn't find anything. But this happens. But here, maybe because of the Himalayas and the mountains, maybe we have a bit more than what we have there.
So, is Croatia a country replete with wildlife or not? I mean, if you're talking about India or Nepal, for example, we've got a rich biodiversity, and we see that a lot of effort is done for the conservation of a lot of animals and birds. Maybe that is one of the reasons why we've got many birds in comparison, or is the climate just very, very different?
It's just the climate, because we have more species here than there in Croatia, so it's a cold reason. And I mean, there are birds, but not as much as we have here in this part of the world.
So what would be the number one number one thing that you've got to take care of as an aircraft maintenance engineer. He said that it was the bird strike was the most repetitive thing that the engineers had to mull over. So what would be something that's really frequent in that part of the world?
On planes?
Yes, on planes.
It depends on the type of plane that the company is operating.
Mm-hmm.
If it's Airbus, a very well-designed plane, then there is no such problem from the aircraft itself. It's the problem from outside, the bird strike or, FODs or ground handling and things like that. But some poorly designed airplanes, they come with faults every single time.
Yeah, I mean, we also had an instructor from EASA about 2 or 3 weeks ago. His name was Pierre Matteo. And when I was talking to him about airports, he said that the Tribhuvan International Airport is a really good airport. Most people don't really know this because they've not been to crappy airports in Europe. And he said, in Italy, we've got so many bad airports. Compared to that, this is more or less like heaven. So I think that sometimes the criticism that's labeled to the Nepalese aviation sector can be a tad overdone, maybe.
Geographically, it's not as bad as the instructor said.
Mm-hmm.
But in operation and in the instrument that the aircraft has installed, maybe we are not as good enough as the other part of the world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that is something that we need to look after.
So in Croatian Airlines, for example, or Airbus in particular, so what technologies are there that maybe is lacking in some of the...
I am not exactly sure what technologies we have in our airport, but I can say what we have in the Zagreb airport that is the hub for the Croatia Airlines.
Mm-hmm.
They have category 3 dual landing system. It supports that, and that is something that the airplane needs to have,
Mm-hmm.
and the airport need to have. So they both need to have that system to do that type of landing.
Okay.
Sometimes the airplane does not have the system, and the airport has. You cannot use it. You have to divert it to some other place.
So what is the name of the system again?
Category 3 landing. I mean, there are 3 types of landing system.
Mm-hmm.
1, 2, 3. 3 is like the visibility from where you can see the runway is very short.
Okay.
It's like barely, like you can't see anything and you can still land.
You can still land, but that's not really possible. Maybe in our country.
I'm not sure.
Not sure about that. Okay. I was reading through a few aircraft disasters throughout the world, and that had got to do with aircraft maintenance engineering. There was a crash that took place about 2 decades ago in Miami, Florida. And while looking at that particular incident, I realized that the plane that was involved had been out of operation, out of manufacturing. The plane was made in 1947, and by 1951, the manufacturer of the plane was not really there. So finding the spare parts was extremely difficult. Maintaining other parts was also extremely tough. So is that a problem that still is in the aviation sector these days, in that once an aircraft gets old and the parts are not manufactured, you don't find them?
I think it is a problem.
Mm-hmm.
There is a thing like that. It's all about money. If there is no money on making new parts, if there are not enough aircraft demanding parts, the manufacturers are not going to make it.
Mm-hmm. So
it's something like a car running in the street,
Mm.
If it's the very common car which you see every 2 seconds, then it's cheaper to maintain. You get parts easily. It's easier to maintain. People are well known about that type of car. You can fix it anywhere. It's the same logic.
Mm-hmm. So now with 2 very big aircraft manufacturers such as Airbus, and there's another one maybe. Which are the 2 big? Boeing and Airbus. Now with the aircraft industry so heavily dominated by these 2, finding the spare parts wouldn't really be a problem?
For Boeing and Airbus,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's a problem. I mean, there might be a delay on getting your parts, but it's not going to be like, oh, I won't get parts anymore.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Depending on the type of plane. If it's the older generation plane, the older planes, maybe you have to wait a little longer until they can send it to you.
Okay. So, there was an engineer we have known as Rahul,
Mm-hmm.
and he told me about a particular moral dilemma. say, for example, an aircraft crashes and the aircraft maintenance engineer suddenly thinks, maybe it was something that I didn't do well. Maybe I was responsible in some way. Does that ever happen to aircraft maintenance engineers, in that this sense of guilt that if a plane had gone wrong, they tend to mull over?
No. In my case, and from the people that I know who work, we don't experience something like that, because from our side, we do our best on the paper, on the regulations, on point. And once we are satisfied that it's well done and it's all by the regulation and by the paper, we sign up the papers and then the plane is released. On some other critical tasks that has that can be danger for the airplane, we have duplicate inspection. Let's say if I do one job and then I sign up the paper, someone else, it's not me, someone else would have to come, inspect it, and sign up the paper again. So we have to sign 2 papers for that, for those types of tasks.
So the two of you are unaware that somebody else has also done a thorough check on that?
No, the point is not that. The point is, if I can do something wrong, from my base of knowledge, someone else might not do that wrong. So he will inspect it in his way. So then there is no mistakes. Let's say on engines, if you're doing engine servicing, let's say not putting the oil but changing IDG oils and things like that, I can do only one engine. I cannot do both. I can do one engine and someone else has to do the other one. This is the safety procedure, that if I do one type of mistake on one part of engine, on one engine, I should not repeat the same mistake on the other one, because if both engines have the same mistake, they both will stop working at the same time, if such thing happens.
But is not the manual that is handed out to aircraft maintenance engineers?
There is a manual to everything. There is a manual to every single thing in the airplane. Even to walk around the airplane, there is a manual. There is a manual to every single details. Yes,
okay. Now, if you're following the same manual as, and the other person is also following the same manual,
yes,
how do you arrive at a point of difference then?
The way that you said is, if I followed and if the other person followed, there is no difference. But maybe the other person did not follow, or maybe I did not follow.
Okay.
Maybe I was too full of ego to go to the manual and use my own experience. Oh, I'm the king, I can do it, So that's what makes the difference. I mean, to have that attitude of I am an engineer and I should know I have to do it by my head is a very wrong concept, and it's something that I cannot take it. I cannot take it, to be honest. We have, in Croatia Airlines, we have engineers working for 25 plus years. And even on wheel change is a very basic thing. You do it every second day. Even on wheel change, we print the procedure. We know everything. The torque value, everything, we know it. But still, we print the procedure, take it with us. But if there is some revisions in the papers, it's always highlighted. So we go through it. Maybe there is a revision. No revision. Everything is same. Put the paper on top of the toolbox, and then we start doing. But here in Nepal Airlines, what I see is there is no such thing as manual. I mean, the manual is in the computer, maybe somewhere else, but everyone is doing like they're fixing the car, changing. This doesn't work. Let me try the other way. The concept here is, for me to be an engineer, I have to know everything by myself, which is very, very wrong thinking. You don't need to know anything. What you need to know is to read that manual.
Okay. Since you guys are doing all of the inspecting, who inspects you guys? I mean, there should be. This is a problem that occurs philosophically. Say there's a country, it is guarded by its army. Who guards the armies? In other words, so is there a hierarchy in terms of aircraft maintenance engineers as well, as to who sits atop of you, who authorizes that the work that you've done is really sound or not?
Who sits on top of us as an employee, or on top of our company?
No, on top of your work, for example, somebody who checks whether the work you've done is proper or not.
There are 2 types of departments, let's say. Okay, when on base maintenance, because I come from base maintenance plus line maintenance, so it's a 2 different things. On base maintenance, there is a category C license holder, which checks the paper that we did. Okay. And on line maintenance, we can sign that CRS. But on top of that, there is again the quality system of the company.
Mm.
And the quality system is again monitored by the National Civil Aviation of that company.
Mm-hmm.
And that is again monitored by, let's say in Europe, it's EASA. So there is a lot of monitoring, and I'm not sure if it's true, but I heard one of my friends told me that aviation is the second highly regulated profession. The first one is the medicine.
Okay. So we could be pretty sure, not absolutely sure, but pretty sure that all of the people have done the right work. It might be one of the reasons why there's a very small amount of people who die in aircraft accidents in comparison to, say, car accidents or bike accidents.
That's the reason this is the safest way of the transportation.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, there was an aircraft accident in Nepal. I think it was in 2016, the February 26th. I don't know the date, but it was in 2016, and the pilots were killed. Nothing happened to the passengers. I mean, there might have been a few minor injuries, but none of them turned into fatalities. And when an inspection was done, it was found out that Kathmandu Air, since it was going through a lot of financial strife, had neglected the aircraft maintenance engineering of it. And so that had resulted in the crash. Say, in that case, for example, I mean, I don't want to touch particularly on, I don't want to be very, very narrowing down on that particular, because you might not know the details of it. But there is a way that somebody can get around the aircraft maintenance engineering side of it as well.
This for me, I don't, on this particular accident. Let's put this down framework. On this one, for me, I would not blame the Kathmandu. Kathmandu is a for-profit organization, so everything for them is money. For all other organizations, we don't have to be hypocrite on this one. So for all of us, it's business, it's money. So Kathmandu will, let's say not Kathmandu, let's put it aside. Any company will do everything on their side to save their money and make profit for the company. It's the civil aviation authority of our country who should care about people's life more than that operating company. So the papers have to be checked correctly. The company has to be audited on time and see what's going on and check the financial background of the company. If they still have money in their pocket to fix the planes. If not, where are they getting those money from? It's their business. We voted for them, but
unfortunately,
we are here talking about this.
Okay. Have we seen in recent times any incidents involving Croatian Airlines?
No, not in recent time, but in their history, they only have one incident which they did emergency landing, and it was Dash Q400. There is a small cover on the nose landing gear of the Dash Q400 which was broken for some reason, and it was not their fault. They complained it to the bombardier, and there was some design fault. After that, they also said that the design was a little bit changed. There was a serviceability issue for that one. But except that, there is no other incident regarding Croatia Airlines. Nothing in their history.
In their history. Okay. And I mean, some people also tend to correlate Croatian Airlines with having privatization of the airlines, or is it controlled by the government of the country?
It's a state-owned airline. I think 95 plus. I'm not sure about the exact figure, but 95+% of the airlines is now owned by the state. Every second year or third year, the company sells more shares to the state and takes money from the state. So, in other words, the company is a loss. The operation of Croatia Airlines is a loss.
Is a loss? Okay. I mean, I was talking to Divas about a couple of weeks ago about what we could do to improve the Tribhuvan International Airport, not Tribhuvan International Airport, but the Nepalese Airlines. And he said that maybe privatization is something that might work. But on the extreme end, we've gotten airlines like yours, the Croatian Airlines, which is run by the government itself. We don't have accidents at all. And maybe the organization is running fairly well, because if it was not, we would have seen a disproportionate amount of accidents maybe, or a lot of complaints from passengers. but that's not really there. So, as somebody who's worked there, are there anything that we could do in order to improve the Nepalese airline sector, apart from privatization, maybe?
I'll give you one very good example of this one. Let's take an example of Qatar Airways.
Mm-hmm.
Qatar Airways is one of the safest airlines now, which is in today's day. And the way that they operate is they are not fully in the EASA, okay? But every single manuals, every single documents, they take from EASA, they ask for it, and they comply on that one. Because now, I mean, it's very hard for one small company to design all those, and do R&D to make all these papers on point. So it's better to take it from a well-established organization, let's say EASA or FAA, and comply on that one. I mean, if you comply with the regulations that we have with the CAN now, maybe we'll be good enough. But it's all about implementation and the attitude, the way you see it, the way you perform on it.
Okay. So
I don't think. Sorry, I interrupted.
Sure.
I don't think that there is anything that we need to do. We just need to be honest with ourselves and put your ego outside the box. If there is a student trying to come learn, there's another story that I heard from one of my friends. One of my friends was trying to do intern in Nepal Airlines.
Mm-hmm.
He went there for like 2 months.
So he was an aircraft maintenance engineer?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, he was. He went there for like 2 months, and he also paid for it. I think it was around 16,000 per month. I'm not sure. Don't go with the price, but he paid for it. And for 1 or 2 months, he went there. And after that, they could not give him the airport pass. So for 3 months straight, 3 months on row, he couldn't get access to the airport. But he paid for it. He tried to contact the office, no response. He tried to go to the office, no response. In an environment like this, someone paid for the service. He already paid. I mean, you took the money and got nothing. So this is something very carelessness. And even a student, when the student gets inside the facility, the engineers there are now their king, because they can do everything without the paper. See?
Yes.
I mean, the attitude there is unbelievable. Everyone, I mean, for aircraft maintenance engineer, the one who is working on the regulations, the one who have to fit on the regulations, make everything on point, there is, you have to go through the papers, see the papers, take the notes. There are changes in the paper. You might forget something, you might miss something. Even if you don't, what's so wrong with going with the paper? You are already getting paid for being in that job and for the time. Go through the paper. If that's the regulation, why don't you want to go?
So you talked about your friend who wanted to work as an intern at Nepal.
Yes, he was there. He already paid, and and after, I don't know, he had to work for certain months, and then they would give him experience later. I think.
Later.
Yeah, but he could not complete it because they did not provide him the airport pass, which would take him inside the facility, and then there was no response from the company.
Okay.
And the money that he paid is gone.
Okay, now this is quite a strange notion that you pay in order to become an intern. First of, in Europe, we've got a lot of movements which say that we've got to ban any sort of internship which does not really pay you, because somebody is making money out of your labor using all of your expertise, but somebody's not paying you. But now in our country, it's not that the intern is not paid. It's that the intern who is more or less handing out, say, a salary in order to get there. So that must be really strange to people in Europe. I mean, you're someone who is from the Nepalese community itself. You find it staggering. I don't know what the reaction of somebody who's a native in Europe might have about it.
I don't think it's strange. I mean, maybe the word that has been used for you to go get an experience are different. Let's say intern or on job. Those are two different words.
On job.
On Europe, you can pay and go do on job. Here, maybe we call it interns, but it's the same thing. You're getting experience. You're making experience book for yourself. I don't find it strange on this point.
Okay, that's on job. So you're basically using a different term, but doing the same thing.
Doing the same thing, yeah. Maybe it's illegal for intern, but for on job, yes, it's legal.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, you're still going there for experience.
Mm-hmm. So, judging from the way you speak, you've got a lot of Italian influence. Maybe you've got a lot of Italian friends over in Croatia, because you remind me a lot of the instructor that we had.
Maybe it's because Croatia and Italy, they're neighbors.
Yeah, because even the way you say Itali is Italian in some ways. So now you're on a break, or?
Yes, I'm on my break now. It's my annual leave that I
Mhm.
wanted to take, and my other friend, we are here together. He had to attend a wedding of his brother, so he said, "Let's go. We have 15-20 days that we can take off. Why not?" I said, "Okay, let's go."
And how easy is it for somebody working in the airlines to take leaves like that?
It's very easy for you to take an annual leave. You can get 21 days of working days annual leave you can get, and you just have to apply from your profile on the internet. On the internet, and they will accept it. If the situation is very worse for them, or they desperately need you, maybe there is some negotiation you can do with them. You can go after 1 month, or come a little early. But in normal cases, there's no problem at all for you to take annual leave. They're obligated to give it anyways.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I read about aircraft maintenance engineers, and which takes a toll on their health, is they're working shifts. Somebody might do a night shift, somebody might do a morning shift, and if there is a lot of chopping and changing that goes on with that, it tends to affect some of your sharpness.
It does to some point, but it's not like for us. When I joined the company, I started from the base maintenance. On base maintenance in Croatia Airlines, we only have day shift from 7 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon. So then, after 4-5 months, they asked us if we can join the line maintenance, and during the season. On summer season now, we go on line maintenance because the flights are more often and they need more people there. And during the winter season, we have more like base maintenance, and the passengers are not traveling as much as in summer season. So on winter we come. So on winter we work on base maintenance, and on summer we work on line maintenance. But there's on this is tricky. It's tricky for me, because for me personally, I feel a bit of difference. But when I speak to my friends, they say it's nothing. I mean, I'm normal. It's good for me. But for me, when I am in, let's say, line maintenance, we have in that company we have 2 days on, 2 days off. So 2 days day, let's say 2 days day, 2 days off, 2 days night, 2 days off, 2 days day, 2 days off. It's like that. But for first month, let's say for 2 days straight, you have to be awake, and then you feel like something is wrong. So if you are adjusted on one pattern of working, then it's normal. It's good. But switching from one type of maintenance to other, and again coming back, it's like you're messing around your head.
Yeah, because it does tend to have an effect on your circadian rhythm as well. And maybe the way you eat, or maybe the way the body processes all the things would also be very different. And
I would also like to add that this is not obligatory. They asked us if we want to do this. And for me personally, I said, okay, for me, I need an experience. I need to know as much as I can. And in this industry, base maintenance and line maintenance are 2 different things. You work on planes, but you do 2 different things. On line maintenance, what we usually do is we have to make that plane keep flying. That's the only thing.
Okay.
We have to be legal for that plane to be on the sky.
I was reading about a case that took place in, I think it was in a flight that took off from Montreal, and it was supposed to land somewhere in Spain. And this is a case which had the biggest penalties for any airlines that was based in Canada. After the crew had to do an emergency landing, it was found out that the engine that was used, that was later replaced, was a faulty one. And this cleared up, and As a result, the plane did not land really smoothly. They had to do a glide landing. Is that a term? Glide?
Belly landing?
Yes, belly landing. They had to do a belly landing, and nothing really happened to a lot of passengers. But it was later found out that the people in that particular airlines had information that something was wrong with the aircraft. The aircraft maintenance engineers had notified the authorities, but they did not really do something about it. Is it something that can happen these days as well? Because now, first, when I was going through the list of major aircraft incidents involving aircraft maintenance engineering, we don't have something particularly modern. Most of them stretch back 20 or 30 years ago when it was not a big thing. When aircraft maintenance engineering maybe was not a profession that was heard as much as it is today. Maybe the aviation sector had not boomed to the position right now. So is there a chance of something like that happening if, say, the government is really corrupt in some countries?
Yes, as I already told you, like if the regulating authority is down on ground, the air safety is finished.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, tell me now, what is the only reason that the airlines company are operating?
For making money.
To make money, of course. I mean, they would do everything on their power to make money, and it's normal for me. I mean, I see it as a normal thing. I work for money, they work for money, the airlines works for money, everyone is working for money.
Mm-hmm.
But we voted for our safety, and they should be working on that one. To put them on place, to tell them what to do, to tell them what not to do. If they want it, this can be solved.
Mm-hmm.
And if the airlines wants it, of course it can be solved. But if I had to blame someone for not being the safest place to fly, I would blame the authority.
For the authority. So sometimes the way that the blame is shifted in this part of the world is that it's said, Nepal is such a difficult country to fly to begin with. Mm-hmm. What are you expecting but accidents in a country with so many hills and mountains?
It might be a place for a bumpy flights, but not for crashing flights.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, okay, it's a difficult terrain. You have to do certain like quick descent or like quick going up, but that doesn't have to be go hit the hill or land on the jaws.
Mm-hmm. So you've been in Croatia for a long time now, maybe 4 years, 5 years. And as somebody who lives in Croatia, for example, you must get a lot of news of the aviation sector in Nepal as well. So how much does it surprise you that we have so many incidents involving aircraft? We saw that an engine had caught fire some days ago in Sri Airlines. We had the ATR accident. We had the Jomsom crash about a year ago. We have these things on and off all of the time.
The other day I read one article she was from France, and she was on some quality of some airlines industry. I'm not sure which one. I found her article in the LinkedIn, mm-hmm. in which she explained what seeing on the video of that our recent crash. She explained what had gone wrong from her side, so I'm not sure if the final report is out yet for the recent accident. Is it out?
No, the final report is not. That we have a preliminary report, but not the final verdict on it.
Because on that article, what she writes, and it convinced me, and I also said it on my LinkedIn. She writes that the feather handle, let's say, for mm-hmm. the feather handle, and the other one was a flaps handle. They were together on that one. On the report, what they said is the co-pilot and the pilot communicated to raise the flaps, but there was no change on the flaps. And the other one, I think it was co-pilot, she said that the flaps 60 or 30, I don't remember the number, don't go with the number. She said that the flaps was raised, lowered I mean, but there was no change on the data recorder. And at the same time, both engines went on weather. Mm-hmm. So she assumes that I think that there was a guy the really experienced guy. He was a co-pilot that day, and the lady was on in charge, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And that guy was doing the change of these controls, and he accidentally moved flaps to 0 instead of moved this propeller feathering instead of the flaps. And on that altitude, you don't have enough time to recover everything. Until you realize that you did a mistake on that altitude, you're
gone.
You finish.
Mm-hmm. So, even before this, we had a crash in Jomsom, for example, and a lot of people said that we don't have proper instrument landing system, for example, something that might be installed if you're flying in conditions like that, where you've got a lot of pockets of clouds that develop. About 2 years ago, we also had the then tourism minister who was killed in a helicopter accident. Something similar happened. There were other reasons attached to it as well, but primarily the weather was really bad. It was also said that the pilot might have been pressured subtly, not that a lot of pressure was put in him, but given that you have a tourism minister, you've got the chairman of Yeti Airlines with you, you've got all of these high class personalities with you, and if they tend to say, let's go, you are going, irrespective of whether the weather is perfect or not. So what is your reaction on these things? I'm not talking about the ATR incident in particular, but as somebody who's now detached from the Nepalese aviation sector, does it still bother you a lot that we've got so many incident after incident?
It really does. Every single time I hear something mismanaged and some accidents that happen here, I don't know what to do. Like it ruins my day for that day.
Mm-hmm.
And especially when the news is so big that everyone is now connected with that news, and they keep asking me, and I don't know what to say. I can't say that my government is the worst you can find in this world. I don't want to say that,
because there are more tyrannical forces out there.
It surprises me every single time, but there's nothing I can do. There's nothing what's on my power. But if we want change on this one, it's the civil aviation that should start doing their job properly.
Mm-hmm. So maybe apart from civil aviation authority, maybe the engineers need to get paid better as well. What is the wage in our part of the world compared to, say, in Croatian Airlines?
Oh, this is interesting. If you compare wages on our parts with Croatia Airlines, there is not much difference.
Mm-hmm.
Comparing only the price
is not the way to look at it.
Yeah, but if you compare the price, there is a difference.
Okay. So one of the other ways that people think of improving the aviation sector is by paying people who work in the aircraft industry better. And we, as Nepalese, we tend to think of Croatia or Italy or other European nations as the ones who pay their employees a lot better than here. Is that really the case, that the aircraft maintenance engineers there have a very high salary compared to?
I can answer this in two ways.
Mm-hmm.
One, that I am an aircraft engineer and I want to get paid more.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, if you pay more, it's going to get better. But if you see the real side of it, paying is not only the solution. You have to pay the right skilled person, the right amount of fees that he takes, or the right amount of salary to him.
Mm-hmm.
If that's what we call properly paid, yes, we should be paid properly. But only giving a lot of money to someone who doesn't even know what they are doing is not the solution. Maybe the better solution might be that you give proper training to them. Spend your money on training, make them skilled, make them think better, give them better experience, and open the doors for them when they want to exit, so they can make money and your company can make money. Because I was reading one post again on LinkedIn, because I use LinkedIn a lot, and it was like a cartoon thing, and the guy was talking to other audience in the room. He said, what if we make our training, our employees train and they leave? And someone from the back said, what if you don't train and they don't leave? That's very deep. Mm-hmm. Now you have a bunch of idiots in your company. So this is the tricky thing. So there is one other influencer which I follow from my heart, Gary Vaynerchuk. I don't know if you know about him.
No, I don't. I sadly don't follow.
I recommend him to you.
Mm-hmm.
Do follow him. He's the
Mm-hmm. Is there a particular thing about his post where
the way he speaks, the way he sees, the way he takes information, and the way he thinks.
frames?
Yeah.
Okay, that's wonderful. So how much of a difference there is between an aircraft maintenance engineer's salary in this part of the world compared to there? I mean, given that there will be differences with regards to your experience, with regards to where you completed, but say somebody who's completed a course from the EASA who works here compared to Croatian Airlines, there's not a lot of difference, or
On figures, there is a difference.
Mm-hmm.
But the lifestyle that you can buy with that figure, if you compare it that way, there is no such difference. Let's say it like this. Here in Kathmandu, the rent is cheaper. Food is cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
In Europe, it's much more expensive. You can buy better lifestyle here with the same amount of money.
Okay.
So on figure, of course, it's more, but you have to spend a little more to get the lifestyle that you can get here.
Well, there's also the advantage of maybe health insurance in Croatia, or how does that work?
Of course, all European countries, all employers, they have to provide with health insurance. And a part of your salary also goes to pension, which is
pension.
I don't understand for someone like me who do not plan to die there.
Mm-hmm.
Pension and health insurance, that takes a bit of your salary also.
Okay, so is that not something that you could work your way around? Maybe say to the airlines that, look, I'm not here for the long haul. That's not really allowed.
That's something you cannot do. There's no escape for that one.
Mm-hmm.
I even tried that because one of my friends told me that if you can give them the bank account of the bank which is not from the European Union, then they cannot take your money out of it without your approval.
Mm-hmm.
But I spoke to the insurance authority. They told me that they cannot take any account except the Croatian account.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what happens to the money then? Does that get refunded to you after you leave, or does that stay with the Croatian government?
I'm not sure. I was doing a bit of research about it. I did not conclude anything about it because I also want to know about it. So if you figure out somewhere, do let me know on Facebook anyway.
Yeah, sure. One last thing I wanted to ask you about, the different types of ways that people practice aircraft maintenance engineering. Say in Canada, I don't know if this is true because I just did a very thorough reading of this, not something that was very deep. They said that anybody could maintain an aircraft, okay? Say, supposing you're somebody who really loves machines, you could go maintain, and then a licensed engineer would take a look at it. And if he deems that this work is good enough, then he lets the plane fly. But that's very different from our part of the country, right? Where only the licensed ones are allowed to touch the aircraft?
That's what I already said. If there is an intern or someone who is learning in our part of the world, they take him like he's nothing.
Mm-hmm.
He's there to learn. He has two hands like you have. He can rotate the things. If you are just putting one screw, why don't you let him put the screw and you tell him what's wrong?
Mm-hmm.
So he can get his experience, his knowledge, and you can get a bit of rest.
Yeah. One can.
And use your experience. Everyone can do the thing. It's like physical thing that you have to do. Open something, close something, put the screws, remove the screws. But when we need licensed aircraft engineer, it's to see if it's done by the manual. That's when we need
Mm-hmm.
to see if it's done by the manual, not by his experience, by the manual.
Shadow. Okay. Shadow. So you said that you are, in Croatian Airlines, you're operating on Airbus
and Bombardier SQ400, but I have two entries in my license, which is Airbus A320 and Airbus A330. But in Croatia Airlines, I am using A320 only because they don't have A330.
Mm-hmm.
All classic engines.
All classic engines. So there was an incident involving Airbus about a few years ago, when there was an Ethiopian Airlines crash. Do you know about it? There was a new system that was installed that was known as MACE, where the engine would have an AI sort of figure, which would let the plane know if it is nosing up or nosing down, and then it would have a self-correcting balance of some sort.
I think we are talking about Boeing 737 MAX 8.
Yeah, that's Boeing, for example. So, and there's a lot of grounding of many aircrafts that took place, and Boeing had a lot of aircraft maintenance engineers and pilots whom they train later on because of that.
I also read the similar thing about it, and from my experience and from what I see, is that was a problem. That was a cost cutting done by Boeing, because if Boeing had said that 737 MAX 8, which they call it now 737 MAX 8, was a different airplane, they had to get different certification for that plane, and the process would be expensive. They had to train their personnel on a separate environment, and the airlines would not want to do it because they would want to go with the skill that they have and just buy the planes that they can operate with and not buy 737 MAX 8. So they tried to say that it's the same plane, which in fact it wasn't. So that was the problem. And there was a new system installed in that airplane, which they did not highlight because they wanted to cover it and say it's the same plane.
Okay.
And not much people were familiar about it.
And not even the aircraft maintenance engineers?
Not even the aircraft maintenance engineer, not even the pilots. I mean, some trainings to them were given through the tablets or maybe on a smaller scales, but they did not really focus on the new system installed. And later, when they got grounded, they fixed all of this.
Okay. I was also reading through a few now. Since you've said something like this, it makes me doubt the figures that I've already been doubting when I read them. There was an article that was published by Airbus which said that in the next 20 years, there might be a need of, say, 70,000 or 700,000 aircraft maintenance engineers, given the projection of how the aviation sector is expanding. Do you think that there is a certain rise in the aviation sector in the recent times to merit such a figure?
I cannot tell about this, but what I can see is the projection that they make it's the graph that they make.
Yeah, it's a graph.
The number of planes, and one plane will take this much employees. So we have the growth rate of employees is this, and by the end of the 10th year, we'll have only this much. So this much is lacking, but it's not going to be the same direction. So I don't think that's the number we should trust. We should always go with the flow. Don't look at 10 years. For you to be a proper aircraft maintenance engineers, it takes at most 4 or 5 years. So just look at the 50 years.
To become a proper,
yeah. On proper place, of course.
Yeah.
Just look at those 50 years. Don't look at the 20, 25 years. Because by then you will already be professional and you will be in the industry. So I don't think that matters a lot. I don't think we should look for the numbers. For someone like us who is trying to build a career, who is trying to make money out of our career, I don't think those things matter. I mean, the fact is that there are planes, they are flying, they need to be maintained by someone like us. That's the only thing which matters for me.
Okay. And one last question. I was reading that there are a lot of planes, that operated even during the World Wars, and you can get scheduled flights on those aircraft. Now, are they a result of fantastic aircraft maintenance engineering, or are the parts very different, or how does that work? Because for us to think that there is an aircraft which you could fly, and it flew around the time of the World War, around the time of Hitler, that's a very staggering thing to know. So how does that work, really?
I don't think we have any commercial planes from the World War.
Oh, sorry, I'm not talking about commercial planes, but you can,
yeah,
especially...
there are planes, and I have also seen some of them are used for cargo, but more is about the design than about maintenance. If the plane is lasting for too long and it's very reliable, it's the design. But for that plane to be on sky, it's the maintenance.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when I was talking to a few pilots that come in Aviation Nepal, and I asked them what the probable causes of so many air crashes might be, they said that we perhaps need our own regulatory body. We are following the EASA model, and this is the same model that we follow in a place like Aviatory School of Technology.
We follow, yeah.
Yeah, we follow. And there's also the regulatory body in the United States of America, which is quite different. If you take a look at Britain, for example, after Brexit, it has developed its own thing as to how it operates its airline. So, I mean, why are we so heavily dependent on EASA and not maybe the one that was adopted by the United States or by the United Kingdom? Because all of the time we hear, we've been banned by the European Union. We've not really been banned by the United States. We've not really been banned by the United Kingdom. So there is a sense of hope. It's not all gloomy for Nepalese aviation sector, is it?
It is not. It is not. Definitely it's not. What I would say on this one is certainly there are problems we have, and for us to make those regulations, for us to make our own authority, it's a very expensive business, and it's a very skilled business, and it also takes some connections and things of that type. So and why would we spend that much when we already have tested and proven authorities from whom we can just take the information and just implement it? Okay, tomorrow we might be on a point where we will feel like we will need our own authority, and maybe we'll have money that time and we can do it. Okay, if you see FAA does the audit of the production of Boeing. We can't really compare with that. EASA does audit for the production of Airbus. They have money, they have everything.
Mm-hmm.
We are struggling with the traffic. We are struggling with dodging potholes. So I don't think we should focus more on making new things. We should focus more on putting things in place, making it work for us. We have everything. So Qatar is one of the safest planes. They take everything from EASA. It's like they copy and they paste it.
Mm-hmm.
So many airlines in the world, so many companies, they all fly. Why don't they have accidents? So many companies fly Airbus. So many companies fly ATR. Why don't they crash? Is it because they send the faulty plane here? Of course not. There is something wrong with us, something wrong with our authority.
Mm-hmm. So how would be the normal course of any student who wants to pursue aircraft maintenance engineering, for example? Mm-hmm. So at Aviatrace, we have a lot of people who are guaranteed internship at one place or the other. Say somebody wants to follow the path that you've chosen and fly to Croatia Airlines maybe, or a different airlines in Europe. How easy is that?
I receive a lot of messages on my Facebook from the aspiring engineers. And I always give them one advice, because a lot of them, they want to work on airplanes, but they don't know where to start. What's the course that takes them on the bottom of the airplane? They don't know that. And I have also seen a lot of people doing aeronautics engineering and expecting them to be the maintenance person in the airplane. That's not the thing. It's the two different things. So there is a special title, it says Aircraft Maintenance Engineering. That's the course designed to fix the plane.
Mm-hmm.
The aeronautics is more focused with the designing of the airplanes.
Or manufacturing.
Manufacturing of the airplanes. So I would recommend people to go with aircraft maintenance engineering, because we are third country nationals. Let's say you do aeronautical engineering. Okay, you might land on few jobs in the airlines, but it's not that easy for you, because we don't design planes, we don't make planes. What are we going to do with 200 students passing every single year?
Mm-hmm.
And do you think that Airbus will take you from here? And do you think that you are that smart that they will take you from here to their facility and give you the job with the experience? That's not possible. I don't recommend that. Just go with the small things, get the skill that you need, and don't listen to people. Don't listen to people.
But Pulchuk Engineering Campus does run something that's very, very close to aeronautical engineering. And in a country like ours, maybe it was not a smart move to begin with, given that, as you said, it would be extremely unlikely.
No, I'm talking from the side of the students.
For the side of the students.
Government needs aircraft maintenance engineers. Because if they produce 200 students, now they can filter one best from there and give it to the airlines. But what about those 199 students? That's something that I don't feel good for them. So learn the skill that can be used. There is money everywhere. Just master the skill. You can drive a crane and still make good money.
Yeah, you can. You certainly can.
You don't have to go with all these theories, explanation. Why? Get the skill, fix the bike, fix the car. You're good. You'll make a good living. And the skill, once you learn, it's used everywhere. Everywhere. But the theory that you have in your head, what are you going to do with it? Okay, it might work for, let's say, 2% of them. And those 2% will tell that how it works, or other 98% and make them feel bad that they did not do enough. It's crazy. It's crazy. I don't understand this.
So how easy is it living in Croatia, for example? In our country, we've got more of a social cohesion because you could meet a lot of your relatives. You've got sometimes an extended family. We're turning into nuclear. We generally hear that Europe is not like that most people tend to live singly, and even the marriage rates in Europe, all over Europe, are going down. So how is general life in Croatia?
In Croatia, I think it's a little different than other European countries. I'll give you one small example. There is no Starbucks in Croatia. There's no Starbucks in Croatia. So I was reading to it, like, why is there no Starbucks? They have every single thing and no Starbucks. Why? And there was an article which Starbucks published, in which they said that the culture in Croatia, the coffee culture in Croatia, it's not like take and go. They like to go to the bar, like we go for the tea, sit down on the table, spend 2 hours with their friends and families, whoever they're coming to see, and take their coffee. So they have a more like a similar culture for us to get inside, but the European touch, the European thing, of course, they are Europe, you'll have it there. But it's not too much difference. The food, you'll miss it, of course, you'll miss it even if you go to India. Except that people are friendly so far. Now there are a lot of Nepalese these days. I think around 15,000 Nepalese as per the labor
ministry or department.
The labor ministry. 15,000 Nepalese, and not everyone is smart enough to keep that position with the people, to keep that they are from Nepal and not do some stupid things. Some places we are judged, of course.
Yeah,
we did some stupid things. Some place they like us, we are hardworking. It's the same everywhere. But for you, if you are a good human and you see world in a positive way, there is no much problem. Nothing. And the crime is zero.
Yeah.
For us, someone like us, maybe in the country there are crimes, but we can walk on the street as women, 2 a.m., nothing like that.
Yeah,
anyway.
You're really safe, in other words, traveling to the streets. This is something that happens to a lot of Nepalese. They go to a particular place, they mess things up, and it's not one person, it's a whole group of them.
They represent the country.
Yes.
And then you're from Nepal. Oh, I had a friend from Nepal. He was in this butcher. He used to eat raw meats. Bro. Yeah, this is something that happens.
Yeah, and given that I think it's most Nepalese are moving towards Portugal and France and countries like that, and it leaves the employers at a very tricky place to hire a lot of Nepalese, because then you don't really have a lot of trust in them. So there are friends of mine who work in this department of sending people to Croatia, and they say that they go there, but they're lulled into the EU passport by Portugal or other countries, and then they tend to leave the jobs.
Maybe it's not exactly like what your friend said. I see it the other way. Here, what happens with these manpowers and all these peoples is, let's say I am here in Nepal, jobless, and I want to go to Europe, let's say. I would go to a manpower and tell them, okay, I want to go to Croatia. and the manpower will, some, if they are smart, a little smart, they will ask, okay, what job do you want? And what my response and what other 98% people will respond is, any job, I just want to go there. That's already the wrong place to start, because now once you go there, the one who hired you is expecting you to know the job. Now you don't know the job. You don't know what to do. You don't know how it's done. Now you are trying to learn in there, while the one who is paying is expecting you to know it. And he wants you will start to be pushy on you, expect you to know, start saying you bad words and all this. This is all our fault, the manpower's fault. You have to decide what you are skilled on and ask for that job. Go for that job. It will be so much easier for you to do the job. You can stick around that job for forever then.
Okay. So what are your plans now? How long are you planning to stay in Croatia or in the Croatian Airlines?
I don't plan to stay there for too long. I just finished this university. I still have like 2 semesters left. I want to finish that. And as soon as I finish that, I will see for other options. Maybe I'm coming back. Maybe I'm not. We'll see what happens. It's a long way there. But I don't want to be outside for too long. I don't like it. The second I land there, I feel like, why?
Okay, every person who does a job for a long period of time might eventually think, is this worth doing? Not today. Please, I don't want to do this today. So which part of Nepal are you from?
I'm from Butwal.
You're
City
from
is Butwal, but I'm from South Delhi. So when people ask me, where are you from? Very few people know where South Delhi is. So I say, from Butwal. Butwal, okay. So I'm from South Delhi. It's about 22 kilometers away from Butwal city. It's on the highway.
It's on the highway. Well, are you flying by an aircraft to Butwal as well? Because they say that Bhairava is a very tricky airport.
Yes, I used to fly, but this time no. I don't want to go on details, but this time no.
Okay. I hope you have a safe flight and we could talk sometime later after you graduated from the university and have a lot more experience and have more wonderful things to say in the future. It was wonderful talking to you.
Thank you for having me, and thank you so much.